11. Look, it looks decent.
Voice narrates to us. Hi, Mystery Recap here. Today I'm going to explain a science fantasy film called Upside Down. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The movie starts as a voice narrates to us the rules of his planet, which has a dual gravity. In such a world, two planets are so close to each other that they block the sky. The people who live on the upper planet seem to be upside down for those on the lower
Could
planet.
that even happen?
The rules of gravity apply to both the residents of both the planets. Hence, they cannot visit the other planet because the gravity of their own planet pulls them down. There are three fundamental laws. 1. All matters are pulled by only one gravity, that is the gravity of their planet of origin. 2. An object's weight can be offset using matter from the opposite world, called the inverse matter. And 3. After a few hours of contact with inverse matter, the contact matter burns. The upper world is called the uptop, while the lower is called down below. The status of the two worlds are vastly different. The uptop is highly developed and rich, while the down below is underdeveloped and poor. The uptop extracts cheap oil from down below and sells them electricity at a very high price. They exploit down below's resources and prosper themselves. The people are strictly prohibited to come in contact with any person from the opposite.
Why, this seems like if this is just real life. That there's no people say, oh no, this is like a caricature, it's like it kind of real life. That's not kind of, this is literally just real life.
Opposite planet. The altercation of this law might be punishable by death or imprisonment. The only legal contact the people of two planets can have is in the Trans World Company headquarters. It is a skyscraper joining the two worlds. People from the up top visit down below for tourism and novelties like dancing in the ceiling. But people from down below do not have such facilities. The voice that narrates this is the voice of a little child named Adam. Adam is a resident of down below. His parents died years ago in a trans-world factory explosion that destroyed half of the city. So he lives in an orphanage. His only relative is his great-aunt, Becky, who he visits on the weekends. Adam's only joy in life is airplanes and his aunt's flying pancakes. One day, when he is at Becky's, she tells him about her secret flying pancakes recipe. Her secret flying pancakes recipe uses pollen from pink bees. The pink bees collect their pollen from both worlds, which can only be found in the Sage Mountain. She also shows him a book that writes of the secrets of pink bees, and promises to hand it down to Adam when he grows up. One day, Becky sends Adam to collect the pollen from the mountain. He narrates that the day changes his life forever.
She's fucking dead.
He climbs higher than he has ever climbed and reaches the top. From there, he clearly sees the uptop. Adam has a paper airplane in his hand that he throws to the uptop. It flies and lands on the ground there. A beautiful girl finds it. Adam looks up at her. They both smile, and the rest is history. Cut to a few years later, Adam has now grown into a handsome teenager. He and the girl, Eden, have been friends ever since. They have been meeting at the same place every day since the last time. That day too, Adam waits for Eden at the top of the mountain. They meet, and Adam uses the second law of gravity to bring Eden down to him. He ties a top to her body and drags her down.
Wait, what?
The two run around the woods with Adam holding Eden in place, but suddenly, they hear gunshots. They hurry back to the hilltop. As Adam is sending Eden back to up top, the guards shoot him. The rope slips from his hands and Eden hits her head on the ground on up top. He watches her lying motionless on the ground as blood oozes from her head. Meanwhile, the guards take Adam, separate him from Becky and imprison him. They also burn down Becky's house. Cut to 10 years later. Adam is now a young adult working in a mechanic's shop with his boss, Albert. He is experimenting on bee pollen to make an anti-gravity formula for anti-aging face cream. However, the formula only works for a few seconds. The equipment required to develop the formula further is only available up top. One day at work, he is surprised to see Eden on TV. He hasn't seen her since the incident.
Wait.
It turns out that she works in Transworld. Adam is over the moon to see her alive. He then starts working at Transworld, because they can provide him with resources needed to complete the formula of the face cream. Adam also plans to reunite with his childhood love there. On his first day at work in the Transworld, Adam is fascinated by the exclusive workplace. The skyscraper has several floors. The floors with a plus symbol are for the employees up top, while the ones with a minus are for employees from down below. Adam works in floor 0, which is the middle floor and has employees from both planets. The head of the establishment informs him about the rules of the workplace. According to him, Adam, being from down below, is fortunate to have gotten a prestigious job at Transworld. Lastly, he informs Adam that if he steals any kind of inverse matter from up top, he will be fired and jailed. Another worker provides Adam with an inverse matter, and advises him to keep it in the refrigerator so it doesn't burn. After work, Adam goes back to Albert's, who is mad at him for going to Transworld, claiming that people from up top are evil. Albert is scared that Adam might get himself killed trying to work for Transworld. But after a little convincing from Adam, he agrees to help him. Meanwhile, Eden is in a self-help group where we get to know that she has lost all her memory before the accident. She doesn't remember Adam at all. One day at work, Adam asks his colleague from up top named Bob to link him with Eden. Bob agrees. That night, Adam, Albert, and their friend Pablo are together. Pablo questions Adam if all this is really worth it. He fears that Eden would no longer want to associate with Adam. But Adam insists that it is worth it. The following day at work, he provides Bob with rare stamps from down below as a gift. He starts working really hard on his face cream. After a few days, he presents the cream to the board from up top. He applies it to a dog's face, after which its face is lifted. The board is impressed, and gives Adam more time to make the effect of the cream last longer. Adam works extra hours that day. After the office is empty, he climbs on a tool and calls the up-top receptionist from Bob's phone. He then makes an appointment to meet Eden as Bob. Later at Albert's shop, they make Adam a heavy suit made out of inverse matter to help him walk on up top. However, because of the third rule of gravity, the suit will start to burn after he has been on up top for a while. The following day, Adam wears the suit in a private room at work, and disguises himself as an up-top employee. As soon as he wears the suit and the shoes, their weight offsets the weight of his body, making him able to walk on the ceiling. He then quickly rushes to the floor Eden works in. He is delighted to see her, but she doesn't recognize him. Her colleague informs Adam of Eden's amnesia. Adam makes an excuse of him coming to see Eden, because his face cream might interest her. He tries telling things from his childhood in hopes of making her remember him, but she just laughs. Then, his suit starts to burn. Adam rushes to the bathroom, and tries to reduce the pain with water. When he pees, it drops to the ceiling, the pee goes into the smoke detector. Just then, an alarm goes off, and Adam is chased by officials, but manages to run away. Later that night, Pablo and Albert apply ointment to his burns. Pablo is still skeptical of Eden. The next day at work, an alarm goes off. The board then announces the name of a few employees to be fired. Bob's name is also in the list. After everyone leaves, Bob and Adam have a chat. Adam feels sorry for Bob. Before leaving, Bob gives him a box with his key card and ID, so that Adam can exit the Transworld building to enter the up-top area if he wants to. Adam is alone when he receives a call on Bob's phone. It is Eden. She is surprised that Adam didn't come back after leaving the previous day, and wants to meet him. Adam is over the moon, and agrees to meet her in a restaurant. He goes to a private room, and wears the suit again to disguise as an up-top employee. Then, using Bob's card, he exits the Transworld building, and enters the real up-top for the first time. As he looks around, he is amazed. Then he goes to see Eden in the restaurant. Adam tries to make her remember him, which makes Eden uncomfortable. She is about to leave, but
why is his gravity still good here though? Is he wearing the fucking the bullshit?
Adam convinces her to stay. They chat for a while, after which Adam's shoes start to burn. He has to get back to down below as fast as he can. The two come out of the restaurant and plan another date the next day. Adam's shoe lights on fire, so he hurries to a nearby sea and jumps on it. As soon as his shoes fall off, he is dropped onto down below and lands on another sea. Adam finally reaches home but has a cold. That night, Eden dreams of Adam and her. She is starting to gain her memory back. The following day at work, Adam's face cream's formula is complete. He presents it to the board members in an auditorium. An old woman sits beside Adam. He applies the cream to her face and it is immediately lifted. The board members clap for him. Just then, Eden enters the auditorium. She notices Adam and is surprised to see that he is from down below. She calls him Bob in front of everyone, but Adam tells her she might be mistaken and that his name is Adam. Confused, Eden runs away from there. After the meeting is over, Adam rushes to the up top in his suit. He goes running, searching for Eden. However, she exits the building before Adam can catch her. Adam uses Bob's card, but it doesn't work this time as Bob has been fired. Seeing that his cover is blown, Adam runs away as the guard chases him. He manages to escape but doesn't have a way to go back down below.
Good one.
Unable to find Eden, he goes to Bob's house to ask for help. Bob is surprised but welcomes him wholeheartedly. Adam sits on his ceiling when Bob hands him a suit he designed to bring Adam down. This suit is designed in such a way that it will not get burned, even after long contact with inverse matters. Then, Adam shows him the magic of pink pollen. He mixes liquid from both the planets and creates a floating substance that resists the gravity of both the planets.
Wait, so everything that's from one place is bugged to go down to that planet's origin?
Bob is scared that the trans world has the formula and will use it to their profit.
Then he's gonna mix the pollen with his blood, and he's gonna become upside down
Adam
blooded.
reveals that he never told the people from trans world about the secret ingredient, the pink pollen. The company cannot manufacture the face lifting cream without him. Wearing Bob's suit, Adam goes back to the restaurant he met Eden in. He goes to talk to her and surprisingly, she is glad to see him. She tells him that she is starting to remember bits and pieces of their childhood together.
And drink.
The two finally kiss.
Pink.
However,
bullshit.
the border police arrive there and the two have to separate. Adam runs away and somehow gets back down below. The police are still searching for him. His escape has made the headlines. Back down, he climbs up the Sage Mountain and waits for Eden to come. She finally arrives. The two float mid-air and kiss. The two are now up top together when a group of soldiers come looking for them.
Again?
The two try to run away, but at the end, Adam falls to down below, while Eden is arrested by the guards. Adam lands on a tree and is saved from the impact because of the inverse matter suit. As Adam walks on the streets of down below, he is kidnapped by two men. They tell him that they are willing to drop the charges against Eden if Adam gives them the formula of the face cream. He is then thrown out of the car. Adam now believes that he will never see Eden again and goes back to his normal life. Meanwhile, up top, Bob experiments with the formula Adam had shown him, and finds out that they can adverse the effect of gravity with it, so the people from up top can walk on down below. The following day, Eden visits Bob asking him for help. Later that day, Adam is in Albert's shop when suddenly, Bob arrives there. Adam is surprised and asks him how it is possible. Bob can actually float in air using Adam's formula. He shows him he can stay down without the help of the opposite matter accoutrements. He has perfected Adam's formula, so that any matter can counter-affect the gravity of either world. Bob also tells him he had purchased the beauty cream patent before trans world could, then tells Adam he has a date. Soon, Eden finds him in the down world, and tells him she's pregnant with his baby, resulting in her ability to stay free in both worlds.
Yeah, but what if they made a baby somewhere, so the baby starts floating in her belly upside down? The belly starts pushing against upwards, and it rips out, dude. It... Because it's gravitating again.
Many years later, towering skyscrapers are seen on both sides, showing that both sides have become prosperous, as well as children from both sides interacting through basketball. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.
Also, it makes no sense, because if his pee's going upwards, then when he's fucking, right, then his cum should have went downwards. If they were fucking above. So he would never be able to hit the target with his juicer. Sorry. This doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. It's just fucking stupid. No, I mean, in war, what you would do is that you would double the gravity against the other side, and your bullets go twice as fast, and theirs go back towards them. Okay, one last. I think I'm playing some fucking bingo. Okay, one more. That one is scary.
Welcome back to Movie Recaps. Today I will show you a drama, mystery, thriller film from 2004, titled The Village. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. In what appears to be the 19th century, there's an isolated Pennsylvania village in the middle of the woods. The story begins with them holding a funeral for the son of August Nicholson, one of the village elders. After the burial, all the villagers have lunch together and Chief Elder Edward Walker offers comforting words. In the middle of the meal, some strange noises are heard coming from the forest, making Noah Percy, a man with a developmental disability, laugh and clap with excitement. We then get a montage of the village's daily life. They all work together in harmony. Among their daily habits, We see them burying anything red and sending a man up a watchtower every night. On the water, we also see the reflection of a passing mysterious hooded figure wearing red. One morning, Edward is approaching the school, as he is the teacher there, only to find the kids outside in a circle. They're looking at the body of an animal, bloody and missing its fur. The kids swear they didn't bring it there. Everyone goes inside and Edward asks his class who could have possibly done such a heinous act. The kids answer with those we don't speak of because they are meat-eating monsters. Edward tells them it makes no sense since the village has a truce with them. They don't enter their forest and the monsters, in return, don't enter the village. That afternoon, the village elders have a meeting. They're discussing possible festivities when Lucius Hunt, son of Elder Alice Hunt, requests to see them. Lucius has written down what he wants to say and proceeds to read it to them. After reassuring them his mother has nothing to do with this, he says the death of the child has weighed on his thoughts, so he wants permission to cross the forest and go to other towns so he can acquire some new medicines. He thinks the monsters won't attack him because creatures can sense emotions, and Lucius is pure of intention. The request is denied. Later at night, Alice asks him what he's even thinking about. He just says he's going to make a friend company in the watchtower. The guard for the night is Finton Coin. Lucius joins him there and asks him what he thinks of other towns. Finton replies they're wicked places where wicked people live. He also thanks Lucius for coming, since he isn't supposed to be there. The next morning, another animal body with no fur is found in town. The elders hold a meeting with the villagers and tell them this must be some predator like a coyote or a wolf, suffering from madness. It couldn't have been those we don't speak of because they're rather big. They would have known they were in the village. On their way home from the meeting, Edward chats with his daughter Kitty. She mentions she's in love and wants permission to get married. Edward looks displeased with the fact the boy isn't there with her to ask properly. Kitty explains she hasn't even asked the boy yet because she wants his blessing before saying anything and mentions the boy's identity, Lucius. Edward gives them his blessing. Kitty rushes to meet with Lucius and confesses his love to him. Lucius turns her down, so Kitty returns to her house and spends the evening crying on her blind sister Ivy's lap while she sings to her. Meanwhile, Lucius gathers wood and takes it to August's house, where August wonders if his son and Lucius had bonded because neither talked much. He also calls him kind. At the same time, at the edge of town, a group of boys is playing a game of bravery. You must stand on a stump, facing away from the forest and with your arms stretched, and see how much you can last before getting scared. The current player swears he hears noises in the woods, but he stays on his spot. Back to Lucius, August is telling him that one can run from sorrow but sorrow will still find you because it can smell you like a dog. Then he looks at a mysterious black box in the corner. Then we cut back to the boys again, who finally are running away from the area when the noises prove to be too much. Morning comes, and Ivy is being called to deal with Noah, who is hitting other boys with a stick. He stops as soon as she asks him to, then she takes him to stare at a special house where he'll be locked in if he doesn't listen. They strike a deal and he promises he won't be hitting anyone again. Now that's over, they decide to spend time together by racing up the hill to the resting rock. Noah asks her not to cheat, but she distracts him and cheats anyway. They make it to the rock and find Lucius already there. He shares a snack with them and Ivy tells him how much her sister cried when he turned her down. She also explains that she was able to tell Lucius is there because a handful of people give the faintest color. Her father has it too. When Noah suddenly leaves to go after a bird, Lucius tells Ivy she runs like a boy. She thanks him for that, then confesses she knows why he denied her sister. Lucius likes her. She can tell because he stopped touching her some years ago. Noah makes it back then and pranks Ivy by putting a little toad on her hand. Afterward, he retrieves some red berries from her pocket and puts them in her hand as well. She smiles, enjoying the present, until Lucius points out she's holding the bad color that attracts those we don't speak of. She says they should bury them. But now Lucius is worried because he's never seen those berries before and Noah already had them in his pocket before they arrived. He asks him where he found them. Noah takes him there. Hours later, Lucius is reading one of his letters to the elders again. He tells them about the berries Noah found near a drawing on the resting rock, which means Noah has been entering the forest all this time without anything happening to him. This reinforces his belief that the creatures won't attack him either if he does the same and asks again to be allowed to go to other towns. The elders don't accept. Later at night, back in their house, Alice decides to tell Lucius a story about the other towns. His father had left for the market and was found naked and robbed on a river days later. Alice is telling him this so he can understand the nature of what he wants, but he explains he doesn't want to do this for himself, it's for the sake of the village. He says he isn't the one with secrets, because secrets are everywhere in the village, like the black box Alice has and he points at. Alice says that's for her own good, to be safe from but not forget the evil things from her past. Lucius wants to open it, Alice refuses and tells him they should talk to Edward.
Lock her out.
Lucius says Edward has feelings for Alice because he never touches her. The following day, a group of boys wearing yellow cloaks are walking by the border between village and forest, painting a yellow line on the torch posts that separate both areas. Lucius is among them, and he doesn't go back with everyone when they're done, he enters the woods instead. It doesn't take him long to find the berries, and when he hears some growling, he looks to his side to see a creature getting away. He decides to return to the village after that. It's nighttime when he arrives and finds Ivy outside her house. She tells him she's heard from her parents that Lucius wants to leave the village for medicine. She thinks it's noble but not a good idea. She also informs him that her older sister is getting married, which means now she is free to receive interest from anyone. We cut to the watchtower then. Finton hears a noise and opens the hatch, believing it to be Lucius, but it's one of the monsters. So after some hesitation, he starts ringing the bell to alarm the village. Everyone in town is running back to their houses to hide. While Lucius helps villagers to get to safety, Kitty rushes Noah, the kids and Ivy into the basement, but Ivy stays at the door, waiting for Lucius. She extends her hand in front of her and an approaching monster is about to take it when suddenly Lucius shows up, grabs her hand and drags Ivy inside to hide with the rest of the family in the basement. The next day, red markings are found on the doors of all houses. The elders are holding a meeting with the villagers to try to figure out what happened. The markings are obviously a warning, but the creatures never attacked without a reason before. When elders ask if anyone knows anything, a written note is handed to them. It's a confession from Lucius, admitting he went into the woods and was seen by the creatures. Edward goes to the back of the room where Lucius is crying and tells him he's been fearless. A couple of days later, the villagers are celebrating Kitty's wedding. There's a lot of food, decorations and dancing, but also a little ritual where two men wearing yellow cloaks leave some meat on a rock for the monsters. When Alice congratulates Edward for his daughter's marriage, she offers him her hand to shake, but he doesn't take it, confirming Lucius' theory. Everyone is having fun at the party until the screaming of some kids is heard. The little boys are brought to Edward, who asks them what happened. They tell him they saw the monsters in the village, leaving more warnings. They think the creatures want them to leave. The party is cancelled. Edward makes everyone go home together for protection. What they find in the village is terrifying. There are dead animals everywhere. Livestock has been taken and skinned, the hides and feathers are missing. There are marks on the barn door so high a coyote couldn't have done it. This confuses the elders. Meanwhile, Ivy is awoken in the middle of the night and goes outside. There is Lucius, sitting at her porch. She sits next to him and tells him there will be an inquiry tomorrow to find out how the border was breached. Lucius wants her to go inside since it's cold and unsafe. She changes the subject. First, she asks if Lucius thinks she's a tomboy. Then she mentions the game of bravery, to which Lucius holds the record. She asks him how he can be so brave, to which he replies he concentrates on what needs to be done. Then she wonders if he'll dance with her on their wedding night and why he doesn't express his thoughts more. Lucius gets a bit angry then. If he wanted to speak, he would, and if he wanted to dance with her, he would ask her too. Most importantly, he admits he does get scared sometimes too when he thinks of Ivy coming to harm. That's why he's on that porch. He fears for her safety above anyone else's. Finally he says yes, he'll dance with her on their wedding night. Then they kiss. The next day, during the inquiry, one of the villagers asks Alice if the news about Ivy and Lucius is true. Alice confirms it is. Meanwhile, Ivy is asking her sister for her blessing, because she doesn't want to do anything to hurt her and she's still more important than a boy. Kitty does give the couple their blessing and wishes them happiness. While the sisters talk, Lucius is visited by Noah, who looks clearly upset by the news. Lucius knows Noah has feelings for Ivy too, but he isn't allowed to say much before Noah stabs him twice. We cut to the Percys, who are getting ready for the town meeting when Noah arrives at the house covered in blood and calls it the bad color. The elders are immediately told about the accident and they make all villagers start searching for the injured person. As soon as she hears it was Noah who did it, Ivy guesses who could have been hurt and hurries to Lucius' house to find his unconscious body on the floor. She crouches next to him and hugs him, and when Edward arrives, she tells him she can't see Lucius' color. A couple of hours later, one of the elders is telling the villagers Lucius is hanging in there but he can pass at any time, so everyone should pray for him. Feeling angry after hearing this, Ivy goes to visit Noah to the house he's been locked at and slaps him repeatedly. His father has to drag her out by force. Noah is heard crying out and hitting things when he's left alone and locked again. Sometime later, Ivy talks to her father and tells her that if Lucius dies, so will she, so she asks for permission to go to the towns for medicines.
He's the fucking monster.
We cut to Edward talking to the doctor to know more details about Lucius' condition before taking a decision. He's got an infection and they can only pray for it. Edward pushes the doctor to give him a better answer on what could be done if they had resources. The doctor admits Lucius will have a better chance if they can contain the infection. Alice takes Edward away from the house to talk to him privately, guessing what he has in mind and reminding him he swore an oath he must respect like the rest of the elders do. Edward doesn't listen and when Alice starts crying, he hugs her. Edward returns to Ivy and takes her with him for a walk, where he tells her his father had a knack for business but it was dangerous because money is a wicked thing that turns people's hearts black. That's why they don't have it in the village. Her grandfather died of a shot in the head while he was sleeping and Edward is telling Ivy all this so she can understand what he's about to show her. They reach an old shed that mustn't be used, and he asks her to try not to scream before he takes her inside. Next we cut to Ivy getting a bag ready for a trip and telling Lucius she'll leave to fetch some medicines for him. Meanwhile, Edward meets with the other elders to tell them about this. It's back to Ivy then. She's waiting by the village borders wearing a yellow cloak.
Oh, I get it. I'm not gonna spoil it.
Finton and Kristoff join her wearing the same cloak. They get closer to the woods and Ivy raises a hand to show a little bag she's holding before the three of them step in. They only make it a few steps in before Finton stops Ivy to tell her Kristoff isn't following them anymore. She tells Kristoff they don't need to be scared because they have the magic rocks, and Kristoff wonders why they didn't hear of these rocks before. Finton begs him not to leave them, but Kristoff thinks it's too dangerous, so he goes back to the village. A few hours later, while they're waiting for the rain to stop, Finton sees and hears something among the trees.
But I won't.
He also gets scared and decides to go back, leaving Ivy alone. Crying, she drops the magic rocks on the ground. A flashback starts then that shows what had happened in the shed. There are monsters inside, or that's what Ivy thinks at first. They're actually costumes. Yep. Edward explains it is all a lie. There used to be rumors about creatures living in the woods on the books he used to—
Look, I typed it, look. They are the monsters, and it's how they use it to control the people to stay inside and whatnot, and do what they want.
Teach back in the towns. The screaming in the woods, the taking away the meat offering, the furless animal bodies, the drills, all of it was the elders' farce, a plan to keep people away from the woods. Their lives weren't meant to harm, but Lucia's situation went too far, which is why he's making an exception for her. He gives her a pocket watch and a piece of paper with the names of the medicines she needs to acquire before giving her instructions on how to navigate the woods and reach the towns. She mustn't tell anyone in the outside world about their village. Then Edward visits Alice to tell her he sent Ivy to the towns because this is all he can give her. We cut back to the Edward meeting with the elders, who aren't happy about this decision. They accuse him of jeopardizing everything they've made. Edward reminds them that they built this town to have hope and he can't allow another elder to lose their child. He also reminds them they won't live forever. Ivy and Lucius are the perfect people to take their place one day. August gives in and tells everyone to let Ivy go. Back in the present, Ivy continues her trip through the woods. Not being able to see the ground, she falls into a hole, and only manages to save herself by hanging on a branch. She carefully climbs out and rests against a fallen tree for a second before going back to her walking. She doesn't make it far before she hears a noise. After throwing a branch in that direction, the noises get worse, so she starts running away until she stops in the middle of the red berries field. A growl makes her turn around. One of the monsters is behind her. She tells herself it's not real, but the creature goes after her, so she starts running again. Eventually she bumps into the fallen tree from before, and that gives her an idea. She stands still and opens her arms, just like the game the village boys played on the stump, and when the monster is about to catch her, she steps aside and makes it fall into the hole. Back in the village, the Percys are visiting Noah, but they don't find him in the house. What they do find, it's an empty hole on the floor, which means Noah had found the hidden monster costume there and ran away with it. When we cut back to the hole, we effectively see the mask had come loose and it was Noah that had chased after Ivy. He passes away in the hole. Ivy continues to walk until she finally finds a road. After leaving her cloak and her bag on the ground, she quickly follows the road until she comes across a very tall wall that she climbs to reach the other side, finally leaving the woods. Back in the village, the elders are opening their black boxes to remember their pasts and the reason why they created the village. They used to live in the city and were all victims of some form of violence. They met in a grief counseling clinic. Edward recruited them to create a place where they would be protected from any aspect of the outside world. A group picture Edward is looking at reveals something important. This isn't the 19th century. It's the 21st. Back to Ivy, she's landing on the other side of the wall when a jeep with the Walker Wildlife Preserve logo parks next to her. A park ranger named Kevin comes out of it and, believing Ivy is an intruder, tells her she isn't allowed to be there. Ivy tells him she comes from the woods, which he has trouble believing, and asks him for his help. She hands him the lists of medicines and the pocket watch to pay for them. When he understands someone is hurt, he accepts to help, since they have those medicines in the guard shacks. Ivy is surprised by his kindness. She didn't expect it from the people in the outside world. Kevin gets back in the jeep and drives to the guard shack, where his superior receives him with some advice. He reminds him it's an easy job. They just need to keep people away from the animal sanctuary and not disturb the woods. Kevin shouldn't make conversation with any intruder, only patrol. His superior still remembers when planes were paid not to fly over that area some years ago. The press had caused him enough stress. While the man goes back to reading his newspaper, Kevin steals some medical supplies and borrows the maintenance ladder. Soon after that, Ivy is back in the woods wearing her yellow cloak and returning home, while Kevin is on the other side of the wall with the ladder Ivy used to climb back and her pocket watch hanging on the rear mirror. Moments later, the news of Ivy's return with the medicine reaches the elders, who are waiting next to Lucia's bed. They are also told Ivy was attacked by a creature and she killed it, which greatly upsets Noah's parents. Edward tells them they'll find him and give him a proper burial. They'll also tell the others a creature did it. Noah's sacrifices made the stories...
Yeah, if you live in the current year and somebody You try to want something, they look for they're from a village, and they try to pay you with a fucking pocket watch. Dude's like, okay, just take it, dude.
And given them a chance to continue this place if that's what all the elders want. They all agree with this plan. The movie ends with Ivy entering the room and grabbing Lucius's hand to tell him she's back. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. At the beginning of the movie, we see a 9-year-old girl named Emma Grossman watching a cat drowning in a fountain through her room's window. She closes the blinds and goes on with her morning routine, showing no remorse to the drowning cat. Emma lives with her widowed father named David Grossman. She is an excellent student and a well-mannered kid. However, she seems to have no human emotions. That day at breakfast, Emma tells him of her ambition to win a citizenship award at school. As the two talk, Emma's aunt, Angela, comes in. She informs David of a new babysitter she has found for Emma. It turns out that Emma's previous babysitter suffered an unfortunate accident. As they talk, Emma points out the dead cat in the fountain. David brings the cat out, but Emma seems void of any emotions about its death. That day at school, a wasp scares the children as they study. As the students retreat in fear, Emma bravely takes a glass and captures the wasp to let it fly outside the window. Meanwhile, David interviews a babysitter named Chloe. He likes her portfolio of work, so he hires her. Chloe seems to be interested in David. Back at school, Emma's classmate, Katie, is playing when she bumps into Emma, who helps her get up. Their teacher watches the events unfold. It looks as if Emma is trying to be compassionate to win the citizenship award. That night, Emma practices smiling in front of the mirror. The following day is the award day. David dresses up Emma and drives her to school. All the parents and students are seated in the audience when the teacher announces that Milo has won the citizenship award. Emma is beyond disappointed. When David talks to Emma about Milo's win, she says that she was the one who deserved it and begins insulting Milo. She apologizes when David looks at her disapprovingly. Sometime later, when no one is watching, Emma takes Milo to show him a cliff nearby. When Milo suggests returning, Emma walks towards him and the screen goes blank. Later, when Milo's parents ask her if she has seen him, she lies and says she hasn't seen him since the bonfire. Suddenly, two girls come running from somewhere, screaming for help. All the parents run to see Milo has fallen off the cliff and drowned in the ocean. His father carries his washed-up body and tries giving him CPR, but Milo is dead. The following morning at breakfast, David asks Emma how she feels, but she completely ignores the fact her friend died the day before. Later, the new babysitter, Chloe, comes to the house. That night, David isn't home. Emma finds Chloe in David's room stealing some of David's medicines. Later, as they watch movies, Emma confronts her about the drugs. She promises to not tell David if Chloe does what she wants. Emma then orders her to get her an ice cream. Chloe calls the little girl a bitch, but does what she says. The following day is Milo's memorial. After the ceremony, everyone is crying except for Emma. David talks to Milo's parents and finds out that the medal is missing. They assume that it sank in the ocean. Just then, Emma begins to cry too. It is as if she is pretending to be sad in front of Milo's parents. When they come back home, David is worried about Emma's behavior. When he folds Emma's laundry that day, we see that Milo's medal is hidden under Emma's mattress. David looks through the pictures of the award day and finds several pictures of Emma glaring at Milo. He suspects that his death has to do something with Emma. Later that day, Emma's teacher, Mrs. Ellis, and a police officer visit David to talk about Milo's death. Mrs. Ellis claims that someone had seen Emma with Milo in the cliff before his death. Emma listens to their conversation from the door. She fakes falling on a vase and hurting herself to stop the adults from talking. Seeing that Emma is hurt, Mrs. Ellis and the officer leave. While taking care of Emma's wound, David asks her if she was with Milo in the cliff, but Emma denies. When he reveals that Mrs. Ellis said she was, Emma gets agitated and yells that Mrs. Ellis hates her. The following day, Chloe goes to their side house where David is working. She asks him if she can smoke there, but David denies, saying that the place has too many inflammable liquids. Right after, Chloe takes Emma to the street to play with her scooter. While they are at it, the two see Mrs. Ellis's car in front of Milo's home.
She's gonna fucking
die. She is
die.
talking to Milo's mother. Chloe says that they are building a case against Emma. She knows that Emma did something to Milo. However, the little girl acts like she doesn't know what Chloe is talking about. When they come back home, they continue the conversation. Chloe tells Emma that if they find out what happened to Milo, they will sit Emma in an electric chair. This scares Emma, but she still doesn't admit to doing anything. Later that day, Chloe is looking for Emma around the house, when we notice the wasp nest that had been in the ceiling of the outhouse is gone. Then, we see Mrs. Ellis drive away from Milo's home. As she drives, a wasp distracts her, which almost causes an accident. She continues to drive when the camera pans to the back seat. The wasp's nest lies there. Emma has put the nest in the car to try and kill her teacher. Back at home, Chloe finds Milo's medal under Emma's mattress. She hangs it in a lamp in David's dresser so that Emma can be caught. David is in his bathroom when Emma comes to his room and sees the medal. She gets it off the lamp and hides it behind her, but David notices. He brings her back to her room and confronts her about it. Emma lies and makes up a story about Milo giving the medal to her as they played. David goes for a drive to take mind off this, when he sees a car crashed on the side of the road. He also calls Angela and asks her to find Emma a therapist. David begins to get nightmares about Emma and Milo. The following day, Emma confronts Chloe about her putting the medal there. She is furious. Just then, David comes downstairs and asks Emma to come with him. He takes her to Milo's home to return the medal back to his mom. She is confused, but thankful that she brought it back. She then informs them about Mrs. Ellis's death. She had had a car accident because of the wasps. David is surprised. Emma begins to cry, claiming that Mrs. Ellis was her favorite teacher. However, on their way home, Emma seems to have forgotten about Mrs. Ellis's death and talks about baking cookies with Chloe. David is unsettled by Emma's behavior. Later, as David is working in the outhouse, he notices that the wasp's nest is gone. He suspects his daughter for Mrs. Ellis's death. The following day is Emma's first appointment with her therapist, Dr. March. She and Emma have a long chat. After the session, the doctor tells David that Emma is like any other normal child. Emma even fooled a psychiatrist. When the two come back home, David comes across Chloe sunbathing in her sports bra. He asks her to go to Emma. As Chloe and Emma talk, she tells the little girl that David was looking at her seductively earlier. She also adds that she can be her stepmother. Furious, Emma screams at her to stay away from her dad. That night, Emma asks David if he likes Chloe. David is confused. She also reveals about Chloe
Chat, you guys are getting smoke for boo-boying. Stop.
wanting to be her stepmother. However, David is late for a date, so he leaves without giving her much of an explanation. Sometime later, Chloe hears a noise as she is watching TV. She goes looking for Emma, but cannot find her anywhere. She looks at the outhouse through the window and sees a shadow there. She goes out to look for her. When she gets into the outhouse, the door closes. She tries to open it, but it seems to be locked from outside. Just then a fire starts spreading on the floor. Chloe sees Emma watch her through the window. She tries to hit her, but the fire indulges her, killing her eventually. David comes home to the firefighters and paramedics in his house. They tell him about Chloe's death. Emma has been taken to an official's home. He finally gets to Emma and hugs her. That night, David comes to Emma's room. He sits down in front of her and lovingly asks her if she hurt Milo. He assures her that he will do anything he can to help her, but she has to tell him the truth. Emma finally admits that she pushed Milo off the cliff. She makes an excuse by saying that he was going to report her for taking his medal. She then casually says that she won't do it again. David is horrified. He then asks her about Mrs. Lavia, Emma's previous babysitter. She reveals that she pushed her down the stairs because Mrs. Lavia grabbed her hand. She then claims that Lavia should have been more careful. Emma gets progressively aggressive as she talks. When asked about what she did to Chloe, she yells at David and blames Chloe for trying to be her stepmother. David is anxious. He cannot believe that his little daughter can commit such a horrible crime. The following morning, the town sheriff calls David and says he wants to meet Emma. However, David makes an excuse about her being sick. He then takes her to their lake house far away. Their housekeeper welcomes them. Later that day, the sheriff calls David again to inform him that the fire was set deliberately by someone, but they don't know who. Seeing that his daughter might get caught, he is anxious. David has a gun with him at the house. He looks at it now and then, thinking if he can put it to use to solve the situation. The following day, as David is asleep, Emma comes into his room and kisses him. She closes all the windows and turns all the gas stoves on in an attempt to kill her father. Emma then goes by the lake and stays there. Just then, David wakes up and smells the gas filling up the house. He quickly opens the windows and turns the stoves off. He sees Emma outside at the lake and realizes that she has tried to kill him. He walks up to her and asks her why she did that. Emma replies that if something happened to him, she gets to go live with her aunt, Angela, who actually likes her. David holds her hand and calmly takes her into the house. Then, we see David crush his medicines. Later, he brings Emma a cup of hot chocolate. The two drink the hot chocolate together and David tucks her to sleep. When he comes back to his room, he calls Angela and tells her everything about Emma's wrongdoings, but she doesn't believe him. He apologizes to Angela and vaguely tells her that he has no other options. It turns out that David had added drugs in Emma's hot chocolate in order to overdose her, so that she doesn't kill more people. But he doesn't tell Angela this. That night when he is asleep, Emma enters his room. She holds a gun in his hand and points it at himself. She fires, but misses, sending the bullet to the pillow beside David. The noise wakes him up and he asks her how is she still alive. Emma replies that she had switched her hot chocolate with David's. Seeing that she was about to kill him, David leaps to snatch the gun from her hand. Emma quickly takes his phone and calls 911. She then runs away to the bathroom as David follows her with the intention to kill her. Emma tells the 911 operator that her father is trying to kill her. David breaks open the bathroom door and points his gun at Emma. Just then, the housekeeper appears behind him with his rifle. When David is about to kill Emma, he shoots him instead. Emma watches as her father falls down to the ground and dies. The police arrive too. Cut to the following morning, and Angela arrives at the scene. She tells Emma that her dad was probably sick. The movie ends as we see Emma hug Angela and smirk, with a cold predatory look on her face.
What a shit plot. This is so garbage. Why wouldn't he just doesn't do something there to not die and then make her go to jail or make her, like, I mean, she killed 4 people, man. She's not gonna be around normal people for like longest time. Man. That was Garbinzo, man. Hottest girl in school wants you, but she's a flesh-eating demon. This looks really bad.
Today, I'm going to explain a comedy and horror film called Jennifer's Body. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. Anita Lesnicki, known to people as Needy, is an alleged violent murderer currently locked up in a correctional facility. Needy is known for her alleged crimes and receives hundreds of letters every day from people cursing her to hell or begging her to accept Jesus Christ into her heart. Innocent or not, the scars on her body tell a different story. After kicking a doctor on the chest at the cafeteria, Needy is sent to solitary confinement. She wasn't always like this. Believe it or not, there was a time when she was considered normal. Enclosed in darkness, Needy thinks about the past several months. She came from Devil's Kettle, Minnesota. The town is named after a local waterfall. The thing is, nobody knows where the water goes. One time, a group of scientists dropped a bucket of red balls into the whirlpool, but nothing ever resurfaced. Here, in this little town where almost nothing interesting ever happens, is where it all went down. Needy is living a relatively normal teenage life. Even though she's considered as the local dork, she has a boyfriend named Chip and is best friends with the hottest girl in school, Jennifer Check. Jen and Needy were playmates when they were young and they've been inseparable ever since. After a school event, Jen invites Needy to watch an indie rock band called Low Shoulder who's performing at the local dive bar, Melody.
Moz, you can remove the filter.
Night, Needy hangs.
Moz, remove the filter. I'm pretty sure Jennifer, whatever the fuck, Jessica, fuck man, Jessica Fox, Megan Fox
is out with Chip in her bedroom as she chooses an outfit for the rock show. Chip feels weirded out by their friendship and accuses her of doing anything that Jen tells her to do. She defends this, but deep down inside her, she knows this isn't entirely true. She tries to change the topic and makes out with her boyfriend on the bed, but they're interrupted as Jen arrives. Jen teases Chip for being jealous because he wasn't invited as she and Needy get into her car. They arrive at Melody Lane, which is more of a bar instead of a club. The bar is full for the night and they see some of their schoolmates, the foreign exchange student, Ahmet, and Craig,
oh man, they're all dead,
from the football team, whom Jen turns down. At the counter, they're approached by officer in training, Roman, a guy with who Jen has been having an on and off affair, but she turns him down too. Jen turns Needy's attention to the band as they're setting up on the stage. She drags her nerdy best friend and introduces themselves to the lead singer, Nikolai Wolf. Jen flirts with Nikolai and offers to buy him a drink, which he happily accepts. As Jen goes to get some drinks, Needy stays behind and overhears the conversation between Nikolai and their bassist, Dirk. Nikolai thinks that Jen is the one, telling his friend that she's definitely a virgin, a girl who likes to put it out but never puts it in. Needy confronts Nikolai and tells him that he's a sleazy creep. She goes to Jen and tells her that Nikolai only wants her because he thinks she's a virgin. Jen thinks this is crazy because she isn't even a backdoor virgin anymore thanks to Roman. Just then, the band starts playing and they watch and listen as they open with their first song. Jen is hopeless and feels giddy about the lead singer, despite the remarks, and holds Needy's hand. Needy feels happy seeing her friend happy, but she lets go of her hand, feeling insecure and thinking that she'll never match up to her pretty and popular best friend. At the corner of her eye, Needy spots a fire starting near the stage. The curtains instantly catch fire and spread across the ceiling, bringing down some of the decorations. The band stops playing as the whole bar quickly goes up in flames. A stampede occurs as Needy and Jen stand in the room, hearing the cracking of bones. A pile of wood falls down, crushing some of their schoolmates as they both watch in horror. Needy snaps out and drags Jen into the bathroom. They escape through one of the windows and reach the parking lot. She comforts Jen, who looks shocked and dazed. Nikolai turns up from nowhere and hands Jen a suspicious drink. He insists that the girls go into his van, but Needy refuses. Jen, on the other hand, takes the drink and goes with Nikolai. Needy calls after her best friend, but Jen refuses to listen. As she watches Jen go inside the van, Needy knows something bad is about to happen. Meanwhile, Melody Lane is burned to the ground.
Sorry, I don't know why
Needy
I
makes it
jumped.
home and calls Chip and tells him about what happened.
I'm washing my hands.
Suddenly, her doorbell rings. She keeps
Shut
Chip
up,
on the
bitches.
phone as she goes down to investigate, but when she opens the door, nobody's there. Needy hangs up the phone and then spots a shadow in the hallway. She slowly walks to the door and opens it, but the closet is empty too. She goes into the kitchen to close the leaking faucet and turns to face Jen, all bloody and beaten in her outfit. She tries to get some sense of what happened to her, but her best friend can only reply in animalistic grunts. Jen goes to the fridge and starts eating their food like a wild animal. Needy tries to stop her, but she suddenly starts retching and vomits a pool of black, spiky liquid on the linoleum. She checks Jen's wrist and feels almost no pulse. Needy runs to the hallway to call for help, but Jen stops her and pins her to the wall. She asks her if she's scared, to which Needy nods and leans to breathe on her neck. She drops her to the floor and escapes through the main door. Needy is left mortified at what happened. The next morning at school, Needy is shocked to see Jen alive and well. Jen still looked the same, but she acted as if nothing happened last night and is being indifferent. Needy knows that what happened yesterday was real because she spent the whole night scrubbing the vomit off the floor. Jen dismisses her concerns and insists that she's just being overdramatic. Just then, their teacher with a prosthetic hand, Mr. Wroblewski, comes in to announce the grim news. After class, Needy meets Chip in the hallway and tells him about what happened with Jen last night. Colin Gray, the high school's local goth, approaches her to check in on her after yesterday's
The local
fire.
goth.
Chip teases his girlfriend, but Needy reassures him that he's got nothing to worry about. Meanwhile, Jen approaches Jonas Kozel, one of Craig's best friends, who's mourning in the middle of their football field. Jen convinces him to go with her to the woods because Craig would have wanted the two of them together. As they make out in the woods,
How
animals
old
start
was
to surround them.
Megan Fox
Jonas
there?
feels weirded out, but Jen distracts him by taking her shirt off.
Hey, dude. Guys.
She rips his jersey off and starts unzipping his pants. She then whispers to him that she's going to see his best friend real soon. She pushes him against a tree, and the last thing Jonas sees is Jen's eyes turning
No shot, right? No shot, right?
black and her open mouth revealing her razor-sharp teeth, ready to cut into his flesh. Jonas's screams reach the school's parking lot and alert their teacher, Mr. Wroblewski. Feeling suspicious, he goes into the woods and finds Jonas's disemboweled dead body. Back at home, Needy prepares a sandwich for her mom as she listens to the radio. Since the fire, Nikolai's band, Low Shoulder, has been getting tons of positive publicity. As they talk over their meal, Jonas is taken out of the woods through a body bag by the police, while the killer, Jen, takes a bath at a nearby lake, washing away all the evidence of her bloody feast. Later that night, Jen is on the phone with Needy telling her about her perfect day. After killing Jonas, she finds herself transformed, feeling no pain, even burning her own tongue. Needy gets another call and it's her boyfriend, Chip. Needy hangs up on Jen and meets with Chip at McCullum Park. He tells her that the police are over at Kozel's house and that Jonas was found dead in the woods. Needy says that with the fire and the killing, it can't be a coincidence. Chip is horrified but reassures her that things will get better. A month after the fire and the killing of Jonas Kozel, the town found its way to slowly heal. The national news picked up the tragedies of Devil Kettle and milked it as much as they could. Low Shoulder has gotten even bigger, capitalizing on their part of the fire, and has made their song the unofficial theme song of unity and healing for the town. Soon enough, Mr. Ralewski announces that Low Shoulder is holding a charity benefit for the victims of the fire. Needy calls them out for being crass but is attacked by her classmates. After class is dismissed, Needy walks with Jen, pointing out that she looks pale and haggard. Jen says that it's probably wearing off.
Oh, she needs blood.
Before Needy could ask further, their conversation is interrupted by Colin, who asks Jen out on a date. Jen turns him down initially, but Needy insists that he's a cool guy. Suddenly, Jen gets an idea. She calls him back and tells him to meet at her house and watch a movie. Chip joins them in the hallway and feels weird that Colin is talking to his girlfriend again, but Needy tells him that he was only asking Jen out on a date. Later that night, Needy hangs out with Chip in his bedroom. They start making out and undressing each other. On the other side of town, Colin drives up to an empty neighborhood. He stops at the address that Jen gave him and enters the unfinished house through the back. He explores around the house, looking for Jen, and finally finds her in a room filled with candles. She takes off her jacket and they start making out. The sight of rats stops Colin, but she lures him back and takes off his pants. Suddenly, Jen's eyes turn dark as approaches a terrified Colin. She breaks his bones and pins him down on the floor and starts to devour his soul. Meanwhile, Chip and Needy are making love when she spots the leaking blood on the ceiling and sees Jonas dead in the room together with a demonic Jen. She gasps in horror until Chip stops, concerned for his girlfriend. Back at the house, Colin is dead with his intestines out as Jen eats the rest of his insides. Needy runs out of Chip's house and drives her way home crying. She almost runs over Jen on the highway, but she swerves to the right just in time. When she stops, she looks around for Jen, but she's nowhere to be found.
She's in the backseat.
Something jumps on her windshield, cracking the glass, and it's her best friend. Needy screams as Jen gets off her car and she drives the other way home. Needy reaches her house and screams for her mom. Finding herself alone, she sobs in the living room. She thinks about Jen and blames herself for letting her into the van. She gets up and goes into her bedroom and screams when she finds Jen laying next to her. Jen calms her down and begins kissing her. Feeling confused, Needy kisses her back, and the two make out briefly on her bed. Needy stops and freaks out, feeling more complicated than ever. She threatens to call the police, but Jen reminds her that she has the cops in her back pocket. Jen then tells her about what really happened to her that night.
Guys, I don't get the plot though. I don't understand the plot.
Feeling confused, Needy kisses her back, and the two moms are confused.
But then what happens then? I don't get it.
Kisses her back, and the two make out briefly on her bed. Needy stops and freaks out, feeling more complicated than ever. She threatens to call the police, but Jen reminds her that she has the cops in her back pocket. Jen then tells her about what really happened to her that night of the fire. After she got into the truck, the guys drove her to the falls. She saw all the occult and supernatural books in their van, and thinking that they're sexual offenders, she insists that she's a virgin, so they should let her go and get someone else who's more experienced. Unbeknownst to her, this is what they guys exactly need. When they reached the falls, Jen tried to escape, but it's really dark, so Nikolai caught her immediately. The guys carried her near the falls and tied her up as they prepared for the ritual. Dirk handed Nikolai a piece of paper and a knife. They then started the ritual. It turned out, they're sacrificing a virgin to the devil so that the devil in turn can grant them fame and success as a band.
What?
Jen begs for her life, but the guys' minds are set. Nikolai held up the knife and stabbed her multiple times before tossing the knife into the waterfall hole. Back at Needy's room, Jen finishes telling the story. She tells Needy that the stab should have killed her, but they didn't. Jen made her way back to Needy, feeling hungry for blood, but she didn't have it in her to kill her friend. On her way home, Jen approaches Ahmet, who's just leaving the scene of the fire, and makes him her first victim. Jen tells a shocked Needy that when she's eaten and full, she's unkillable. She can now withstand virtually any injury without pain and heal instantly.
Christ, man, this
Needy
is so
brings
dumb.
up their encounter in her car, but Jen quickly dismisses it. She then demands Jen to leave, and she does so by jumping through Needy's second-floor bedroom window. Needy attends Colin's burial the next morning. She has to stop Jen in any way she can. She starts researching about demons in the occult, and a way to stop her friend from killing any more boys. Chip meets up with her at school and brings up the school dance. She tells him that they shouldn't go to the dance at all, but he's really more concerned about behavior. They go to a quieter place and Needy finally tells Chip the truth about Jen. It turns out that Nikolai made a mistake when they sacrificed Jen because she wasn't a complete virgin anymore since junior high. According to Needy's research, if the human sacrifice is impure, the result may still be attained, but the demon will remain in the host's body, who will continue to feed its thirst for blood. Chip refuses to believe her, which prompts Needy to break up with him. As the whole school prepares for the dance, Needy worries about Jen's next victim.
Makes sense.
At Chip's house, his mother gives him a can of pepper spray, which he takes hesitantly. Meanwhile, Jen is wearing down, her hair is falling out, and her skin is breaking out. She needs to take her next victim soon. Needy arrives at the dance and keeps an eye out for Jen. Meanwhile, Chip is walking through the park to get to school when he's stopped by Jen. She lures him to the trees, saying that she wants to talk about Needy. She then lies to Chip, telling him that the reason Needy was so broken up over Colin's death was because they were hooking up on a semi-regular basis. Jen starts flirting with Chip, lying to him that she's liked him all along, and then starts kissing him. They start making out under the trees until Chip suggests they go somewhere else. Back at school, Needy watches in anger as she watches Low Shoulder open with their song. Suddenly, she realizes why Jen hasn't appeared all night. She's after Chip. Needy runs over to Chip's house and learns that he left 20 minutes ago. She then runs to the park, knowing he would have gone through there. Meanwhile, Jen takes Chip to an abandoned community pool.
Chip, you fucker.
They sit at the edge of the pool and start kissing again.
In the movie,
but
of course, not in real life.
Saying that it feels weird. This angers Jen and she pushes him to the water and starts
I'm just saying, in a world where there's a demon and shit like that, and he's doing that, and with a demon, he deserves to die against a demon. But in real life, you wouldn't.
Needy arrives just in time and finds Jen eating her boyfriend's neck. She jumps into the pool and tries to drown her former friend. She goes back to Chip, who's still alive but bleeding, and tosses her the pepper spray. Jen resurfaces from the water and she sprays the bottle at her. She screams and vomits black puke all over them. Jen starts levitating and steps outside the pool. Needy and Chip get out of the pool. Needy finally confronts Jen, telling her that she was never a good friend. Jen always wants what she wants. Needy accuses her of being insecure and tells her that she's no longer socially relevant. Jen screams at her and threatens to eat her soul, but when she lunges towards her, Chip brings up the broken pool cleaner and stabs her in the torso. She pulls out the pole, in pain but still alive, and walks away from her former friend. Needy then comforts Chip. They apologize to each other and declare their love for each other, but it's too late. Chip has been bleeding too fast and has lost a lot of blood. He slowly fades away and dies as Needy sobs by his side. Needy goes back home in her torn and ruined dress. She has nothing to live for now, but she can still do something right. She's going to stop Jen no matter what. She cleans herself up and marches her way to Jen's house. From Jen's bedroom window, Needy could see her worn and weak. She breaks into her window and lunges at her.
I think the only thing sad about this movie is that the guys that she kills, they don't get the juice before going, which kind of sucks. It's like, at least give them the juice.
Needy pins her down on the bed and tries to strangle her to death, but she bites her on the neck. Needy takes out a box cutter and crosses out her stomach. Jen starts levitating from the bed and they struggle midair. Needy grabs their friendship necklace and this stuns Jen, prompting her to fall back to the bed. As much as she hated Needy, she never really thought she would be the one to end their friendship. Needy falls back to the bed and stabs the box cutter deep into her heart. She watches as Jen takes her final breath, taking in the fact that she had just killed her former best friend. Suddenly, the lights turn on and Jen's mom runs into the room, cradling her dead daughter. At the correctional facility, Needy is still in solitary confinement and everything is going according to plan. She's not the same Needy anymore because when you get bitten by a demon and you live, you absorb some of the demon's abilities. She lands down from her meditation and breaks down the facility's walls and escapes by tearing the fence. As she walks down the road, she notices a small creek nearby full of red balls and takes the knife that Nikolai used to stab Jen. It seems like everything at Devil's Kettle eventually resurfaces. As morning breaks, she flags down a car and hitches a ride towards the east in Madison.
Now eat 'em.
She tells the driver she's following this rock band because it's going to be their last show tonight. Later on, the police find all the members of Low Shoulder dead in their hotel room. Subscribe to watch more videos like.
What the fuck?